My question is to the Minister for State-Owned Enterprises and asks, does he think the government has a mandate to sell Genesis Energy when last night's 3 News Reid research poll showed 68% of New Zealanders say the government should not sell Genesis Energy, and given that a majority of New Zealanders voted for parties that opposed his asset sales policy at the last election?
Honourable Tony Ryall.
Mr. Speaker, yes.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Why is he so determined to ignore the overwhelming majority of New Zealanders who do not want the government to sell these assets?
Honourable Tony Ryall.
Mr. Speaker, because the government's share offer program was extensively debated and discussed during the last election campaign. The Leader of the Opposition at the time described the election as a referendum on the mixed ownership model program. In fact, the member himself said the ownership and use of state assets has become a defining issue of this election. So this government is sticking to its program, and it is in the best interests of New Zealand because it helps us control debt and invest in important social infrastructure.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, if indeed the last election was a kind of referendum on asset sales, and the majority of voters voted for parties opposed to asset sales, then will he accept the results of that referendum, which is that New Zealanders do not want him to sell these assets?
Honourable Tony Ryall.
Mr. Speaker, clearly this government campaigned on its mixed ownership model program, 51% government ownership, 49% on the share market. Our party received the biggest vote of any party under an MMP election. But I have to say, this party, his party opposite, has to answer the question about why they ignored the referendum on hard labour for serious violent offenders. They ignored that one. Why they ignored the referendum to cut the number of MPs, and why he himself sniffed at New Zealanders who voted against his smacking proposals.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, Dr. Russel Norman.
Does he accept that on an issue where the Parliament is virtually evenly divided in asset sales, 61 to 60, that in fact a referendum is the perfect tool to decide an issue where the Parliament itself is evenly divided and where the people of New Zealand have clearly expressed by overwhelming majority their opposition to asset sales?
Honourable Tony Ryall.
No.
Supplementary question, Te Ururoa Flavell.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Speaker. Kia ora tata. To the Minister, why is the Minister continuing with the sale of shares in Genesis Energy before addressing the serious Crown breaches of Te Tiriti o Waitangi as found in the Waitangi Tribunal's report on the Tongariro National Park claim, which stated that ngā iwi o te kāhui maunga retain residual property rights and a right to development in the waterways impacted by the Tongariro Power Development Scheme?
Honourable Tony Ryall.
Mr. Speaker, the mixed ownership model is part of the government's wider economic plan to control debt and to continue investing in our New Zealand economy. I can advise the member that the Minister of Finance is in a direct discussion with the various parties to that action that he's taken, and he is currently undertaking a series of discussion with iwi affected by the Genesis sale. As the member will know, the Supreme Court has made it quite clear that the mixed ownership model sales process is no impediment to future treaty settlements.
Question number 5.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Te Ururoa Flavell.
Aside from his response, would he concede that the sale of Genesis Energy is actually a further breach of the treaty that could be prevented if they were to deal with the claims appropriately before selling shares in Genesis Energy? If not, why not?
Honourable Tony Ryall.
No, I don't agree with that, and principally the reason for that is that the Supreme Court has considered those arguments and has made it quite clear that the mixed ownership model program and the partial sale of these assets is not an impediment to dealing with legitimate treaty claims. And certainly this government's record is one that's unparalleled in the scope of work and achievements in that area, led by the Honourable Chris Finlayson.
Question number 5, the Honourable Annette King.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Health. Does he